Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. Today we're back here at the top of the mountain with our brand new villager breeder and carrot farm, and even if this thing has only produced a single villager so far, it's produced more than that when it comes to carrots. So I'm pretty happy with this as at the very least a carrot farm, and I am planning on expanding it today. We're going to add the other 3 modules of this farm. One more for carrots and then 2 for potatoes as well, because remember, carrots and potatoes are a pretty decent crop to trade with farmer villagers, and we could potentially get some pretty decent discounts on those trades once we've worked out a little bit more about how to get these guys a little more friendly. Mostly probably involves getting them zombified and then curing them again, but we'll figure that out a little bit later on. For now, I'm going to spend a bit of time into the start of today's episode building up the rest of the farming modules around here. We're going to build each of them pretty much identical to the one we've already got here. We can use the same walls even if we want to, so I figure I may as well just do that in the form of a time lapse. Hey folks, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the time lapse, and we now have a farm for 2 different types of crops up here. We've got potatoes on opposite sides, carrots on opposite sides. I like the sense of balance we have here. Not only that, but we have all 4 of our farmers, or well, 3 of them if you if this guy wants to come over and have a bit of a chat as well. All of them surrounding these folks and sending crops down to them quite regularly, which is perfect because ultimately those are going to be farmed by the hopper system that we have in here. However, there have been a few issues here, and it turns out that that pair up in there decided that they wanted to breed, and it seems to have shaken off the problem where one of the farmers wanted to get involved, and those two have been producing more villagers than I predicted. In fact, some of the villagers they've been producing have been able to just walk out of the system here, because I think they've just produced too many, and the amount of the villagers here has just meant they kind of get out the sides. They kind of squeeze through the structure of this. So we really need to do something about this. We need to make sure that these villagers have somewhere to go. And for that, we need to figure out where we're going to contain them in this little area down here, because that is where the villagers are going to end up, in this section down here. So I guess the first thing we're going to need to do is make a tunnel. It's going to have to be a tunnel that leads from this villager containment section to the area down here where we're going to eventually have our villager town. And we could do this water stream in a variety of ways. I think the way we're going to do it is just a nice simple way where every 8 blocks it takes 1 step down, and that will allow the water streams to continue down the mountain rather than have to worry about them going straight along. We can do that if you want to put a wall in the ground there and do the usual trick with signs to hold the water back. A sign there, and a water source there. The wall will actually bump the villagers up half a block, and even the baby villagers will be able to be carried along in the water stream that way. But I'm not going to worry too much about that, because I think we want to bring the adult villagers who are already in the breeder down here as well, mostly so they stop catching the crops that are chucked down here before they make it into the hopper system, because as you can see, I've only got 7 carrots in here, and that 1 potato I put in there myself to start a stack. I think these villagers are picking up the rest of the crops before they have a chance to go into the hopper system, so probably best if we get them out of here as soon as possible, really. So against my better judgment, we're going to break them out using Silk Touch, and you will see that there are, quite a number of them. I have no idea how they've managed to produce this many, considering that you're only supposed to have enough villagers that kind of fill up the beds there, but maybe they just don't detect where the beds are. Anyway, we're going to have them all run down here in this water stream, and then the water stream is going to dip 1 block here and continue along for a few blocks. And on second thoughts, maybe having them all crammed into this end of the tunnel was not going to be the best idea. And now we're out here on the surface. The villagers are kind of trapped up at the end of the tunnel there. There are a couple who have made their way onto the surface that I might have to trap in boats and bring them down the mountain manually to make sure that they're not interfering with things too much, although a break for the villager breeder might actually be a good idea. We need to work out some method of having population control here, otherwise things are likely to get out of hand. But bringing the water stream out of the mountain here onto the surface kind of made me wonder, what if we make some sort of like villager aqueduct system that would essentially bring the villagers into town and then drop them off maybe in a water fountain or something like that, so that they could have a safe landing and then go out into the city and find workstations and kind of take the population over there. I think that'd be kind of cool. Now it's just a matter of executing on that vision, I suppose, because, I need a bunch of stone brick. We'll probably make sections of it out of wood as well, but I think the majority of it is going to be a water trough made of stone brick, and we'll have to make sure that it is at least 1.5 blocks high so that the villagers don't end up hopping out of the water streams over the sides and just coming down the mountain any way they choose, because the idea here is that we need to be in control of this entire process, which, as you can tell right now, we're kind of not. And I've got to say, it is pretty helpful that having sea lanterns or some sort of lighting block in the design of this villager breeder also goes some way towards mob-proofing it, because I was a little bit worried that any of the villagers that made it out of this whole deal would probably end up getting picked off by zombies or pillagers and creating a bit more of a problem. But thankfully, these ones seem to be mostly okay, as I now take them down to a very unlit industrial area. But trust me, we will be doing a lot of lighting up of this area if we want to make sure that it is safe for the villagers here. And we might even get a chance to experience a zombie siege firsthand and do a video about defending against those, because if we're going to be making a village here, that is going to be a concern. An aqueduct coming down from this thing, though, is really kind of fitting in with my idea for the aesthetic of this place. With slightly more stone brick being used in the construction of stuff like the Iron Tower, I feel like it really fits a little bit better. And we are going to take down this villager breeder as well, so that's going to no longer be part of this area, and that's going to give us a little bit more room to work with in the town, as well as an additional population of villagers, I suppose, because most of these guys will still be able to take professions in 1.14. Although because they're closer and there's a lot of them here already, part of me does want to move them back into the iron farm today. But we need to do a little bit of cleanup on the iron farm as well and fix a couple of problems with that. So I guess once we built this aqueduct coming down here, we can probably break the villagers out of this breeder and reinstate them in the iron farm and fix up what's going on in there. So I am now the proud owner of an aqueduct, a villager transport aqueduct, and I am probably going to have to use it to transport some of the villagers who have been hanging around here. We've got a couple of them set up in boats here and there just to make sure that they don't run off. A couple of them may even have fallen foul of pillagers already, because there was a patrol of pillagers that spawned down there, and I think I saw one of them get shot with crossbows. But to be honest, I don't need to worry too much about the welfare of these villagers yet. Brutal though it sounds, they aren't locked into trades, they aren't particularly valuable to me right now, and this breeder is just going to keep producing them infinitely. So right now the aqueduct kind of ends there, and it's not all like fall damage and stuff. They are going to fall into a pool of water over here, but I'm not going to do all that much to protect them in here quite yet, because to be frank, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them until I have a few more plans for this area and remodeling the trading hall and stuff like that. But no, we're going to move on to working on the iron farm and correcting the issues with it, because as many people have pointed out in the episode in which we built the iron farm originally, there are some issues with this design, particularly the way I built it. Now, unfortunately, when I made the tutorial for it, I had a couple of misconceptions about exactly where we needed to build some elements of the farm, specifically these villager cells over here to one side and the other. And thankfully, the villagers who are down here seem to have mostly survived, but various people have reported a couple of issues with this farm, and I am here to correct some of those today. So let's scaffold up, and I'll show you the pods up here, which have, unfortunately, lost their villagers. Both pods on the second level and also the pods on the third level no longer have any villagers in, and I will explain to you why this happens. Because when I initially followed DocM's tutorial, I wasn't sure quite how close the beds and stuff needed to be to the zombie. If they were too close, I thought that the zombie was going to be scaring them constantly and they wouldn't be able to sleep. And if they were too far away, obviously that would cause problems with them not being able to see the zombie at all. So I placed these 5 blocks away from that cauldron. There are 5 blocks space in between the foot of this bed and the cauldron, and that should have been 4 blocks. The reason people's villagers have been dying when they've constructed the farm following my tutorial on this farm design is that the villagers who sit in the frontmost bed, the villagers who decide to go and sleep in that, are actually sleeping for longer than they should be able to. Normally, with this farm, the zombie should scare them almost instantly, and they should be able to just wake up and not stay in that bed for too long. But since they're a block further away from the farm, the zombie's line of sight doesn't always meet their own, and they don't always get scared out of that front bed. And unfortunately, when that happens, their head can end up getting stuck in this water block. They're laying down in the bed, but technically their head hitbox is inside of this water block, which means they end up taking suffocation damage, and if they sleep for too long in the bed, they die. So that's something that needs to be corrected, and the solution to that is simply to move these villager cells 1 block closer to the farm. So there is 4 blocks space in there instead of 5. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here. I'm not going to do it all on camera because this is a bunch of setup stuff. You understand, if you've watched the tutorial, how to set up these villager cells in the first place. I'm just going to move all of them 1 block closer to the farm. It's going to mean messing with a couple of these villagers around here, unfortunately, but we have a bunch of villagers left over in the breeder over here, the 1.13 breeder, that I'm probably just going to move straight into this farm. They do not have professions for the most part, so it should be nice and simple to move them into the farm. I just need to do the thing I was doing before, setting up a bunch of minecart rails to get them into those cells in the first place once I've moved them all closer to the zombie. And hopefully that's going to resolve some of the issues with these iron golems spawning on the blocks around the outside of the farm as well, because moving these closer to the center of the farm also moves the villagers themselves closer, and that's what's causing the golems to spawn within a certain range. The fact that I curved the outside of these towers was a bit unfortunate, but if we move everything kind of closer into the center of the farm, it really shouldn't happen as much as it's happening already. So fingers crossed that that works out for us. I'm going to spend some time moving these villager pods. Hey folks, welcome back. So I am in the process of putting the last few villagers into the newly moved cells of the iron farm, but while it is getting dark here and I'm feeling a little bit brave, I'm not too worried about the villagers over there, seeing as I'll be enough blocks away over here that I don't think any zombies will spawn there. You'll be able to see that the villagers in these cells are now spending a fraction of the time in the beds that they were before, and they will each try and sleep, and sometimes they'll try and sleep in that frontmost bed, but you'll notice they get out of it straight away, and that is the ideal configuration. This took a lot of rejigging to get a bunch of these guys into these cells, and as you can see, the tracks are still winding up the length of the iron tower until I can get the last 3 villagers installed in this cell up here. But it's been pretty good. I've noticed already that iron golems are spawning in here again, which they weren't really all that much before. I think a couple of the iron golems around the outside of the tower were preventing some of them from spawning. And of course, we didn't have any villagers in these top 2 platforms to spawn golems. But now the iron is flowing once again. Not that I was too worried about it. I do have a lot of iron left over. But for those of you who have been experiencing problems with this farm, hopefully this will be a workable fix for you guys. Just make sure that you either build it the right way the first time, or you can rebuild it with some of the villagers that we've got in the new villager breeder. Now I need to get these last 3 villagers in because this golem here is being prevented from falling off the platform by the rails that I've built here. And we'll adjust a little bit more stuff about the tower later, because I can see there's that one golem down there who spawned down there or maybe fell down there and didn't get sucked into the collection system, but that's not a huge issue. What we really need to do is just make sure that everybody in here can be sitting comfortably and producing iron golems for us. And I've got to tell you folks, this is quite a welcome sight. The iron farm is back in full operation thanks to just a small adjustment and a lot of moving villagers around. But we should be back to producing iron on an industrial scale once again, and apologies for getting that wrong in the initial tutorial. I hope you guys are helped out by the fix for this farm. And now we come to these guys around the corner here, because I do have a couple of iron golems still lurking around the peripherals of the farm. But those of you guys who feel a bit of sympathy for these guys, do not worry, because I have a different plan in mind for them. I'm not going to be consigning these particular golems to the lava down there. Instead, I'm probably going to bring them over here, and they are going to help defend my new group of villagers, because I've got a lot of them now. This little pond here is rapidly filling up with villagers. There are more on the way from the villager breeder, and I expect we will probably find a good place to put these. But we really do need to work on some sort of shut-off switch for the villager breeder soon, because otherwise things are going to get out of control up there. I've been working around here for a little while, so the whole thing has been loaded in the distance, and evidently the villagers don't need me to be nearby if they want to reproduce. But I think that is going to be it for this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. A little bit of fixing up farms today. I hope you guys appreciated that. Leave a like on this episode if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.